Hello everyone, welcome back to my course, and today we going to have a course about an introduction to ecology. So let's begin. First is about the scope of ecology. So ecology itself is a scientific study of the interaction between organisms and the environments. So the key things here that you need to emphasize is the term interactions. So ecology, the key is interaction in between the organism and the environment. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then what happened with this study is that the study has ability to determine how an organism is distributed and how also their abundance. Simply say abundance is the number, how ecology can measure the number of organism. And in general, in a bigger scale, like in a biosphere level, ecology be able to reveal the richness of the biosphere. So what happened with the biosphere, how many organism, what organism living in the biosphere, ecology is the study that be able to reveal it. Now we're gonna see the scope in terms of the results. So the results of ecology has a hierarchy starting from the simple one into a very complex one. So the simple one starting will be from the organism, and then population and community, and then ecosystem, and then landscape, and the biggest one is the biosphere. So now let's take a look one by one. Now, the first study, the simple study in ecology, that we call it as organismal ecology, and this study focus on how the structure, physiology, and also behavior of the animal be able to meet the environmental challenge. For example, we can see from the picture here why this shape of the shark is like this, because from organismal ecology we can find this shape, which is streamlined shape of the shark, be able to let them to swim very fast on the water. The next step is population ecology, and again, because the name is population ecology, so it will be emphasized on population. So what is population? Population is a group of individuals of the same species living in an area. So simply say, uh, population is the collection of organisms with the same species. There is also another thing you need to emphasize on population is that because they have uh, characteristic as one species means they are be able to reproduce between that species and be able to produce a fertile offspring. Okay, so that's the key of population. And then again, the study of population related to ecology, we call it as population ecology. Now we have commonly, like I told you before, so population with population together, they will become what we call as community. So community is the group or collection of population, and the ecology that study about it, we call it as community ecology. Now in a bigger scale, after the community, in the environment there are so many community, and this community together interact again with the environment or the physical factors. Now the study, we call it as ecosystem ecology. And ecosystem ecology very emphasizing on how the energy flow and also how chemical flow in between the environment and also the organism. After that, we have what we call as landscape. So landscape is a mosaic of connected ecosystem. So how to imagine landscapes, like we can see how a city look like, for example, Bandung city, we can see that in some particular area we can find shopping mall, in some particular area we can find government office. So each place has a specific area. So that's also landscape in the nature or in our earth. there are so many ecosystem, and ecosystem distributed in a specific area, and the study about the distribution of ecosystem in a geographic region, we call it as landscape ecology. This is the biggest one, and the biggest one in terms of ecology we know as in the level of biosphere. So biosphere is actually global ecosystem. I mean, it's all the total ecosystem on the earth or on the globes. So the study about that, we call it as global ecology or ecology of the globe. Okay, so global ecology. And in terms of history, most likely ecology is closely related to what we call as descriptive science. What is that? So the study in ecology, they try to describe, they try to explore a certain phenomena in relation to organism and its environments, how they interact. So mostly about description. But to get this description, it's not only a simple description. The ecologists sometimes they do also many experiments, and the experiment also sometimes very complex, and then they involve many variables. So it's not as simple as descriptive, even though they try to make a description result on their finding. Okay, so it also rigorous experimental science. Okay, so now what happened with the ecology and in relation to evolution is that every single time period has a specific ecological time. So evolution time and ecology time always closely related. For example, the ecology time, long time ago, will have a relationship with the evolution time. So, for example, in the age of dinosaurs, so the dinosaurs have their ecology activity. I mean, how they interact with the nature they have it. But it will be slightly different with us. Now we don't have dinosaurs, so the thing has changed totally. So the ecosystem and the evolution, it's also totally changed. But again, the key is that every ecological time has always close relation to evolutionary time. Now we're gonna see the components that include in ecology. Mostly we study the two things, the two factors, like we discussed before, which is there are two factors in ecology. The first is about abiotics or non-living, and then the second one is biotic or the living one. So A mean non, biotic mean living. So abiotic mean non-livings, and then biotics, yes, it simply say living things. And then what about the abiotic factors? So abiotic factor consists of many factors as long as they do not live. So such as they are temperatures, water, sunlight, wind, rock, and soil, and many other factors, air, uh, like minerals and everything. So as long as they are not living, we call it as abiotic factors. What about the biotics one? So again, biotic is about living thing. So what happened with the biotic? We know there will be some interaction between organism, right? And then also there is a predation and competition. So now let's closely look one by one about the biotic factors. So let's see predation. Predation is an interaction where one species, mostly predators, kill and eats the other, especially the prey. So it's actually simply say it's a feeding relationship between the predators and the prey. So they have some, if they are some animal, if they are predator, mostly, yeah, I believe it's very easy understanding. They have certain characteristic, they have certain body features to let them become the predator. Mostly they have claws, teeth, fangs, stingers, and in many cases they have the poison. For example, we can find it in a snake. And then prey, in the other hand, they they also try to have the defensive adaptation. So I mean, They also try to fight, not literally, because they pray they don't have to do something, so they need to do something. They do what we call as defensive adaptation. How they do that? They can do it by behavior and also by coloration. Coloration is color, so how the body color look like. Now let's see the example. In the behavior, the prey can do many things, like they can hide, they can fly, they can together in a group, or they can fight by themselves. And in some other organism, they can make a call. For example, in a group of monkey, if there is a predators, one of the monkey will make alarm calls for the groups, and then the other member of the population will know, so they can have a preventive and also how to do the defense against the predators. That's for behavior. And then not only behavior, they can also do with morphology and physiology on their body. So let's see, they can do what we call as cryptic coloration or camouflage. Means that the body color is almost identical or closely look with the environment, so it's camouflage. So the predator will be difficult to find it. That's what we call as cryptic coloration. And then we have also what we call as aposemantic coloration. And then what is that? It's actually uh, a group of animals with the ability to have a chemical in their body, and this chemical act as poison. So the predators will be uh, having a difficulty to eat them because the body consists of poison. And mostly in aposematic coloration, the animal who has this skill, they mostly look bright. So why bright? Because bright indicate warning. So the bright color is a warning for the predators. So let's see. This is what I told you before with cryptic coloration. So we can see here there is a foreground here, but we cannot see clearly if we do not pay attention on the picture, right? So this is what we call of cryptic or camouflage. And then aposemantic coloration, like I told you before, this frog has poison and also has bright color. So this bright color indicate that they are dangerous for the predators. Another type we have what we call as uh, mimicry. Mimicry, we have two type of mimicry. The first one is battation. Battation is a condition when one animal try to imitate the dangerous species. For example, this is a caterpillar. Okay, so this is a caterpillar, but it's resembled to a snake. So that's why what we call it as imitating the dangers. So this is the Batesian mimicry. And then we have also another type of mimicry. We call it as Mullerian mimicry. In this case is that two different species. So these two organism is two different species, but they act on the same way. So they have the same mechanism how to defend themselves, even though they are coming from the two different species. Okay, so and this mimicry is again is for the purpose of protection, so they can protect themselves against the predators. Okay, I have explained it about it. Now the next relationship in the ecosystem we know as herbivory. So herbivory is very simple understanding regarding to this is that one animal eat plant, as simple as that. So or we can also use a more or easier term, we can say plant predators, which is herbivore. And herbivory interaction mostly it's all about plant and on about herbivore. But there is one thing important is that plant also, even though they are the prey by but they have something to do, they have what we call as plants defense. So plants depends mostly chemical. So maybe we can find it. Some plant is uh, itchy to touch, right? So or some plant also make like liquid or some substance that make irritation to our skin, right? So that is the plants depends. And then now we have symbiosis. There are three types of symbiosis. The first one is plus plus or mutualism, and then plus zero or commensalism, and then plus minus or parasitism. Parasitism. Okay, so why there is a symbiosis? It is because the animals that doing the symbiosis, they need something for their life. They need nutrition most of the case. They need protection, and also they need reproduction. That's why they do symbiosis. So let's see. The first is parasitism. So parasitism is an interaction when one individual get benefit and the other get disadvantage. So there are two types of parasitism we know. The first is endoparasite, and the second one is ectoparasite. So what make them different is it's all about position. So if the parasite live inside the host, we call it endo, and if the parasite live outside, we call it as ecto. Mutualism is very easy as long as both parties get benefits. We can say it as mutualism, and there are two types of mutualism. We know it. The first is obligate, means it's a must for them to do mutualism because without it, one will not be able to survive. This is obligate mutualism. And but in some other case, we can have also what we call as facultative, means these symbiont or the organism that interact, they can have an option whether they want to do the mutualist or they can live as an independent organism. That is facultative. The last we have what we have is commensalism. So commensalism is plus zero, means one benefit, one's unaffected. The very popular example, everywhere we can find this example, right? Which is always the buffalo and the bird. So the bird get benefit from the insects, and then but the buffalo is still okay. So I mean, in this case, not really. Uh, what should I say? The interaction is quite simple as long as one parties get benefit and the other uh, unaffected. Okay, so the next up we have what we call as trophic structure. Trophic structure, it's very important in a community. Why? Because trophic structure represent what we call as feeding relationship. And in feeding relationship, we have two types, which is the food chain and the food web. Food chains links the level from producer to the top carnivores. That is food chain, but food web is the combination of food chain. So it's more complex, consisting of many food chains. That is food web. Okay, and in many cases, species can play a role which is very interrelated. So one organism can have many food chain in a food web. Here is the example. In a terrestrial, we have plant eat by grasshopper eat by insectivore, and then insectivore eat by snake eats by eagles. That is in terrestrial example. And then in marine, we have phytoplankton, and then phytoplankton eaten by zooplankton by fish, which is smaller fish, and then eat by bigger fish, and at the end it will be eaten again by super carnivore or the top carnivore, Yeah, it could be whales, it could be shark, or it could be human. So what happened with that, with this food chain, it's actually the transfer of energy. So you can see from the terrestrial cases that the sun give us energy around 1 million joule, right? But then it absorbed by plant and converted into energy, it's become around 10,000. And then 10,000 will be transferred by the plant to grasshopper to feeding mechanism. And then the next step, the energy is become smaller and smaller. So what happened is that with the feeding is every individual try to get food and also try to get energy. So the top predators in this case is actually getting the lowest energy from the sun. This is the example of food web, very complicated. So like I told you before, one individual in food web can have many roles in a food chain. For example, this fish, it has a relation to this animal, this has also relation to this animal, it has many relation. So that is what really happening with the food web. And on the top of that, in every uh, food web, most of the time human is the top because we can eat everything. Now this is going to be the last part of our discussion for today. So now we're gonna talk about species with large impact. So not all species but only certain species has an impact to the ecosystem. So we have the first species that is important, we call it as dominant species. What is that? Is the species that having the highest biomass or the having the highest in terms of their number. So the total number is so abundant, so they become so dominant. That's why we call it as dominant species. And then we have what we call as invasive species, is actually typically uh, introduce animal. For example, like this, uh, goldfish in our river, it's fine, so it's not become a problem. But goldfish in United States is a big problem because the goldfish is not the origin in the United States. That's why they become problem. So that is the example of invasive species. Another invasive species like rabbit. Rabbit long time ago didn't exist in Australia, but now because of human introduction, rabbit has become problem in Australia. That's why this type of activity is very invasive to the Australia ecosystem. That's why rabbit become in Australia they call it as invasive species for the rabbit. The last is the most important species on the ecosystem. We have keystone species. Is that species that has a very influence, very important control on the community, and also they have very important roles. Without them, the ecosystem will be imbalance, will be a chaos, will be a problem without this keystone species. So simply say, without the keystone species, the ecosystem will be become make some problem for them, especially in imbalance. And in terms of number, they don't need to be dominant, even though they have a small number. But if they are very important, so they become a keystone species. So let's see the example. The example is we will have two examples here. The first one is sea stars. So sea star is very important for the intertidal community because without it, there will be imbalance. Because as you know, that sea star is predators that eat smaller animals, so it keeps the intertidal communities in harmony, in the balance. And then another example, we have sea otter. So sea otter is very important for the ocean community because without it, uh, the number of fish population will be uncontrolled without the existence of sea otter. There are many other keystone species in terrestrial ecosystem. For example, we have butterflies, we have bee. They are keystone species because without them, there will be a problem in terrestrial communities. Because, for example, we can have bee. Without bee, there will be no fruits. Okay, without the bee, there will be no seed made. That's why bee is keystone species in terrestrial ecosystem. Not only bee, we can also have, for example, tiger. Tiger is keystone species in ecosystem in a community, mostly in tropical community, because the existence of tiger will be able to maintain the jungle in harmony in terms of the number of population that living there. Okay, so that's all the things that I have covered about the introduction to ecology. So hopefully what I explain you help you to learn and help you also for your learning. Again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for paying attention to my explanation, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.